hot start as per usual. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be joining us from. My name is Devin Morgan, Director of Baseball at Driveline, founder of the Driveline Academy, working with a directional mic and sometimes forgetting that this is the Driveline Academy podcast, the world's most dangerous youth baseball podcast. I am joined as per usual by my partner, my brother, Driveline Academy Assistant Director, Driveline Academy International Man of Mystery, my brother by choice, not by blood, Jeremy Techteal. Housekeeping. Thank you guys, as per usual, for the listens. We're going to come up on like 100K.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like real soon.
Yeah.
We're right on the cusp of 90, so like probably in the next month and a half, I would guess. And shout out to you guys for being listeners of the world's most dangerous youth baseball podcast as I marble mouth my way through it. Housekeeping. Variety of notes. Page shill that I am. I have to tell you about some things that you could buy. The first one is a Skills to Skill Complete Youth Baseball Training Manual. I'm putting that at the front now. It's out. It's available for sale. We have inventory here. The pre-order period is over. We were talking about this in a department meeting this morning, but because the pre-order period is over and we have inventory for sale now, we put some ad spend behind some of the previous social media content we've put out on the youth channels. So shout out to the Hardo 8U live or die travel ball dads that have been in my comments all flipping weekend about how necessary it is that your 7 and 8 year old child who probably just recently stopped peeing on themselves needs to be defined by their wins and loss outcome.
They got to learn how to compete somehow.
Yeah, no, they definitely need to learn how to compete. They need to learn how to tie their shoes. They need to learn how to be human beings. And if that sounds preposterous, if that take sounds preposterous, and you listen to me recount some of these comments, which, you know, your boy's feeling a little bit spicy, so why don't we just read some of them on the air?
This is the content that people want.
Yes. So you know what? Why not just air some folks out?
And you'll get my live reactions. 'Cause I haven't heard any of these.
Pretending that winning has no value, even at the 8U level, is incredibly naive. Never said it didn't have value. What I said is it doesn't portend anything for your kid's future.
How dare you?
Some more good stuff here. You couldn't be more far off. These kids are learning how to fail and how to win if they are being coached properly. Again, the context of this conversation was an 8U kid that was getting intentionally walked in an 8-year-old game where we're keeping score. The lessons these boys are learning at such a young age can be the foundation for how they deal with failures and success in life. If I'm intentionally walking an 8-year-old, I am not teaching that kid how to deal with failure. I'm actually doing the opposite, and I am telling them that their failure is such a risk to me that I have no tolerance for it. So if you understand the point that we're advocating for here, and this message resonates, I got a thing for you. It's called the Skills to Scale Complete Youth Baseball Training Manual, and it's everything that I have learned starting myself as an idiot coach that defined myself against wins and losses and coming to the perspective that I have right now, which is very different.
Do you respond to these?
I do. And the funny thing is that like one of the guys that was chirping in here is a guy that I've already blocked on Twitter.
Sure.
So he found our Instagram and like decided to pop off over there too, which is hilarious because like we should do an episode of like this is how you get blocked.
Yeah.
You know, like because at a certain point I'm willing to respond because I think we're not just responding to that one person. You're responding to anybody that's going to see it and they see that interaction, right? Yeah. So, which brings up an amusing comment.
I was gonna say, this is where I would struggle. Is I would just like respond LOL at a lot of these, or just like send them the like, hey, you could use the link to the book,
right?
Like, you know, it's good for everybody to learn. Here's this, and I would be extremely petty about the whole thing. So.
I go petty LaBelle sometimes, but on this one it was pretty hilarious because the guy who was like, these lessons these boys are learning at such a young age can be the foundation of how they deal with failure and success later in life. Well, it's not if you're intentionally walking kids at 8U. Yeah. And it's not if you're defining their experience at 8 by wins and losses. But the amusing thing is if you go to that person's page, the first most recent post they have is celebrating an 8-year-old kid who had their first home run. Context, it's 8U. The fence is probably like 50 feet away. It's a juiced U-trip bat, but whatever. You hit the ball hard in the air and a good thing happened, and that kid was rewarded for it. Mm-hmm. So I said to that guy, the most recent post on your page is celebrating an 8U player hitting his first home run. The context for this video was about how preposterous it is that kids are getting intentionally walked at 8. I simply want to see kids afforded the opportunities to have that same kind of success in competition.
It's a good response.
And amusingly, and again, like part of the validation of like actually responding to these guys sometimes is like other people then see that and then they'll like my reply more than... Anyways, if this stuff makes sense to you, if you want youth baseball to be about fun engagement and skill development, if you want to learn how to be a better coach and you don't want to spend 14 years like I did screwing it up a lot and then trying to figure out a better way, there's a lot of stuff and there's only one place you need to go to get it. That's Skills to Scale Complete Youth Baseball Training Manual. It's available right now. Not only is it the book, but it's all the online resources as well. You should check it out.
And if you're in the other boat,
yeah,
you need this book more than the first person. So like you should definitely buy this book. You won't, but like you should.
I was literally just like, I'll give you a code Daddy Ball. Code Daddy Ball. And I'll give it to you for like free. But then I can't incentivize that, you know.
That kind of behavior.
Yeah, I can't do that. So anyways, Skills to Scale Complete Baseball Training Manual is out. Youth Underload Smash Bats are out. They're real good. If you want to train the very discrete skill, which is moving fast and moving fast accurately, one tool you need to buy, Youth Underload Smash Bat. And then our normal housekeeping is if you also want to buy other bat and ball type of tools, go to axbat.com, use the code DL20, D as in Dallas, L as in losers, 20.
Yikes. Going after the Cowboys fans on the podcast.
Rhodesy, I'm sorry. Shout out to Aaron Rhodes, the Dallas Cowboys' most diehard fan at Driveline Baseball.
I was going to say, in Kent, Washington, for sure.
Perhaps in Kent, Washington in total. Rhodesy, I love you. DL20, Dallas Losers, 2-0. Get yourself 20% off. We're gonna fire loose and free today. It's just been, I've had a weekend.
Yeah.
We're gonna go after it, and I had a variety. We have a potpourri of topics, and it's really hard. Do you want to start with the most infuriating one, or do you want to start with the most like heartwarming one?
Let's start infuriating,
okay,
and then work towards heartwarming, so that by the end we feel better. So that I don't leave here and go coach the kids in like an angry mood.
Sure, fair. No, I think that's good.
Yeah.
So there's tiers of infuriating. The first one I have to bring up. Like we talk about youth baseball. Sometimes we talk about pro ball. Yeah. Sometimes we talk about international professional baseball.
Sure.
One of my favorite players ever is Yasiel Puig, big Dodger guy. And man, I think Puig is not necessarily my favorite player because of me. It's because of my kids.
Yeah. He still wears the Puig shirt.
Yeah, because when Puig came up, I think that was the first time that my kids saw somebody on the field where like the joy was just palpable.
He had to have been like 7.
Yeah, I mean, they were tiny.
Yeah.
They were tiny. And to see to watch it, you know, like I'm very old. Gary Carter was my guy, right? Gary Carter was my guy. I was a catcher. Gary Carter was a catcher that could hit. I loved to watch that guy play, right? You know, Kirk Gibson, when he was a Tiger, was my guy. Like, those are my two. Yeah. But I don't know what it was like for my parents and my grandparents to see me have that attachment to it. But I know what it was like to watch my kids watch Puig play.
Yeah. And I could say the same thing about me being a young child in Chicago during the Sosa McGuire.
Right.
Like, I know my dad loved watching me fall in love with Sammy Sosa.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, Puig has been bounced out of the league for a while. There's all the weird gambling stuff and, you know, whatever. But he's currently playing international baseball. And
being the peacekeeper in a major brawl.
But the infuriating part about it is that, like, there were some really big name baseball social media accounts that put the first thing up first. It was like, and the caption, I still remember, it was
Puig starts a fight or whatever.
Puig involved in another brawl.
Yeah.
And then Puig, through his agent, have to go on the attack of posting the full footage, which is him actually being the peacemaker.
Correct.
And then him getting sucker punched.
Correct.
And it's hard to not, as a guy that was like definitively emotionally invested in his career, and wanted to see him be a Dodger for a very long time, felt some type of way about the way that like guys like Scott Van Slyke and oh my gosh, AJ Ellis and other dudes in the Dodger clubhouse, like I again, I'm feeling spicy. I will name names.
Yeah. Those typical red ass baseball players, right? Like there's
red
they
ass
exist,
white dudes.
Yeah, they exist.
You know, and certainly I think if you look at the way the Dodgers have handled international prospects since then, I think they learned that they could do a better job. And this is me, dumbass, idiot fan, seeing it from the outside. But I think, you know, that old because there was that moment before the international draft existed, where teams could still, like the Yohan Moncada, right?
Before there's no draft, before the new signing, with a
which is like
bonuses.
slotted, right?
Yeah.
When it was just, hey, you know, if the Red Sox want to sign Moncada and they're going to sign him for $20 million and they're already at their cap, so they're going to pay a $1 penalty into a fund. Yeah. I think there was a period of time where those guys were getting really big checks, and I think the team still didn't really have a good idea to understand how to like totally grapple with pulling someone out of their country and putting them in the United States and everything that means. I'm sure
I can tell you firsthand one of the moments where I was like, I have a hard time believing this is my life, and I won't name teams or anything, but I was a coach in rookie ball and had to teach our Latin players how to use things like plumbing and the dishwasher and the microwave and the stove and things like that they had no idea and we were not prepared for. Right. And a month into the season, the cleaning ladies at the apartment complex that we were all staying at, that I was like basically the RA at that point because I was the coach that was staying there.
Sure you were.
Came to me and we're like, you know, we have to have a serious conversation with you about people not using plumbing. And like, you know, I had this conversation with them and they had never, growing up, used a toilet that could flush toilet paper.
Right.
And this was like not a thing that I ever thought I would ever have to deal with.
Right.
Of like, okay, guys, we don't have a game on Sunday. Sunday afternoon, everyone's going to meet me here, and I'm going to show you guys how to properly dispose of your toilet paper in a toilet, how to use a microwave, because they didn't know what to do, so they were stacking dirty dishes in the microwave, in the oven, because it was supposed to be like a clean apartment, and they were just, you know, they didn't know what to do.
Right.
And it's like, the apparatus that major league clubs have to get those kids assimilated into our culture is really, it's better now than it was then.
Yep.
It's still really rough.
Yeah. And I think for me, again, from a very distracted, not inside of pro ball, I'm just a fan. When I look at Puig's trajectory and some of the struggles that he had working in the clubhouse, understanding how to act, I mean, all that other type of stuff, man, it sucks, you know? So when I saw like these major, you know, it's like Talking Baseball or whatever, like that's a huge,
it is.
That's a humongous platform. Yeah. And they run with it in that framework. It makes my blood boil. Yeah. Because it's such you know exactly what you're doing. You are pushing a narrative and you know exactly how it's going to be received by people that are ready to be receptive to that thing. The story is already written. It's just like, and it works for you because it's the foregone conclusion of the narrative that you already like have established.
See, I'm not going to lie. I clicked on that link and I watched the video.
Right.
If it had said, Yasiel Puig plays peacekeeper in like large Caribbean series brawl, I'm probably not clicking that link because I'm like, this sounds boring, right? Yep. Like, he plays peacekeeper. No, I want to see him like get into it with people.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Like, you know, I want to see like an actual brawl. Like, no one wants to watch the video where like, there's a guy trying to separate people.
Yeah, and the tricky part now is that like we're talking about baseball. And like we work in baseball, but we also consume baseball content. Yeah. So like we're as sensitive to anybody else. Yeah. And the fact that you have GMs and agents and people that are inside the game, and you have a player who like desperately wants to be back at the highest level of competition, he's pretty flipping good.
Yeah.
But that's gonna throw people off. Like it just that was.
But we're not fully away from that. I mean, we're just throwing out names on the podcast. So like there were stories about Freddie Freeman's exit from Atlanta and him and Ronald Acuna.
Yep.
And that not going super well.
Yep.
As much as I don't do this enough on this podcast, but I have. If people know my feelings on a certain John Smoltz or spray tan guy.
We're pretty clear on that.
I don't know if I've expressed my feelings enough in the opposite direction for Joseph Votto.
Yes.
And I do think Ellie De La Cruz is handled very differently last year.
Yeah.
If Joey Votto is not in that dugout, egging him on and loving every second of it as like a 39-year-old white dude.
Yeah.
And like that, having those guys on a team that are like, no, I'm here with a bunch of young guys. Like, I'm the dad in this room, but like, it's also my responsibility to let them be themselves.
Yep.
Like, he literally could have been, age-wise, Ellie De La Cruz's father.
Yeah.
And like, that, there's not enough of those guys.
Yeah.
That like.
Yeah. And to what degree is Votto being able to be receptive to that guy and not seeing him as a threat, not seeing him as some sort of like indictment about the right way to play the game or whatever, but you bring him in. And now you have all this positive stuff that comes with that.
Yeah, and fans enjoy people like Ellie De La Cruz way more than they enjoy people like AJ Ellis or Andy Van Slyke or Scott Van Slyke. And Andy was the dad. Yeah,
Scott. Yeah, and Andy was out there doing radio spots in like St. Louis, like capping for his. I have so many hard, calloused thoughts and emotions about the way that whole thing went down. Like, I felt like we were just on the verge of seeing like a new era, and it was again like the Dodgers have had international players of more than I could like name off the top of my head that have like embedded themselves in the community, embedded themselves in the organization, and their faces, like their literal faces, and like it's the Fernando Valenzuela thing all over again, man, all over again, and then, but it's not
right,
and to a degree, some of that I'm sure. You could lay at the feet of Yasiel because I also know people that work for the Dodgers, and some of them have like they've had some stories. And
I've heard some stories,
true, right? Yeah. And so it's all.
But none of the like obviously I'm not going to share any of those stories, but none of them were like this guy's a terrible human being. It's like he's pretty immature and like is a goofball who's like 22, 23 and is way more famous than he was 2 months ago and doesn't know how to handle it.
It's zero idea how to handle it. Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's hard to not do the what if game.
Yeah.
Right? The what if game with stuff like that. And when I saw that incident get framed that way, I was absolutely irate because it literally, I saw the talking baseball thing. Yeah. Puig involved in another brawl.
Right.
I took my little Twitter fingers over to Puig's account. And by that moment, his agent had already posted the full footage.
Yeah.
So it's not like that wasn't
available
to them. They they made a choice. So that's probably more infuriating for me.
That's more of like as baseball fans, when are we ever going to get to the point where we are allowed to let personality show? And like it's been an issue with the sport for a very long time that like personalities are kind of hammered out in the minor leagues, and if you show off a lot in the minor leagues or showboat in the minor leagues or whatever it is, like you're gonna have that reputation coming up the chain, and you're gonna get talked to on the day you get called up that like we don't do that here or whatever the case is, and like it is really hard unless you are insanely good. It's really hard to get away with doing a lot of that stuff and like having a personality at the big league level, which is why we see so many guys get there and like feel terrified to express their personality.
Right.
And like, we see it here a lot of the times with pro guys that come here. Like we have great personalities in this game that are afraid to be personalities because of what maybe, I don't know, John Smoltz will say about them on TBS. Yeah. Or Alex Rodriguez will say on ESPN or whatever. Like the national audiences are going to hear about these guys is like, oh, this guy doesn't play the game the right way because he doesn't play the game that way. And like there's definitely a wrong way to play. But I would not say showing emotion is like a wrong way to play.
Right. Like,
and we're just far from that.
In historically, there are moments in baseball that are celebrated for like emotion. And it's a little funky sometimes when it feels like there's a disproportionate crackdown on emotions that are shown by a certain type of people that have a certain more higher percentage of melanin in their skin.
Yeah.
That I like, but then it's funny because this stuff has tail to it, right? It has run because we see it because the kids watch these kids. Our kids are watching kids at the professional level play, and the ones that they like. If you take the survey, the ones that resonate for them. It's the guys that show emotion.
It's the guys that show emotion. Yeah, it's way more fun.
Right.
It's way more fun to watch.
So then they go play tournaments, or they play the game, period, and they show emotion and they have fun with it. And then that clip will get posted by some old fart, fat and old like me, and it's like the game is going. It's hell in a handbasket because some kid did a bat flip in a tournament or whatever. Some kid sorted a kid like. And we talked about that last year.
Yeah, over the summer.
Yeah.
That like I'm very clear with my kids. I want you celebrating. I want you showing emotion. Look at our own guys when you do it.
Right.
Don't look at their dugout and celebrate.
Right.
That is just showing them up. There's no need for that.
Right.
I want you to celebrate with your team, with your brothers. Go and look at us and give us the signal.
Right.
Whatever that is. Don't do it. If you're doing it for the wrong reasons, don't do it. If you're doing it just to show up the other team or to be petty, don't do that.
Yeah.
But like, if you're really excited that you just hit a huge double in a big situation, you better turn to your dugout and give them some sort of dance or whatever. Like I want that. That is like a huge thing for me. And we can put a bow on this, but like the melanin thing, high percentage melanin, is 100% true.
Right.
And if you think about someone like Joey Votto, who has a very low percentage of melanin in his skin,
sure.
How long did it take him in his career? Winning an MVP to feel comfortable being himself.
Right.
And being a dork who talks about chess online and things like that. A really long time.
Right.
And if like someone like that, who's won an MVP, who is, I've never heard, I don't think anybody say a bad thing about him, like widely respected across the sport, and he doesn't feel comfortable being himself for that long time, like that's, and then you add the percentage of melanin in there, and it's a problem that is made only more frustrating by like we're talking 7 years ago at this point, but the Let the Kids Play campaign with Griffey.
Yes.
And it was like, it was a great it was a great idea. It was a great campaign.
Yep.
And it just had no teeth because like there's way too many people in baseball that don't want to let the kids play.
Correct. And then the other thing about like our teams is it's also like the don't start none won't beat none.
Right.
Because that is the other thing is that I think you also run into kids, we're very direct about like you do it to us, like do it to your dugout.
Right.
But then if kids are going to chirp.
Yeah.
Right? And they're not going to necessarily maybe have that type of feel or that same instruction.
Yep.
And then at that point it's like, okay, I'm not saying we should play like scumbags, but like if you do the sword thing to the kid that was chirping you first, hey man.
Yeah. And you got to understand that there is probably going to be a response from that end. That's fine.
And that's the whole thing can circle. And I think everybody needs to, you have to decide what type of competitor, you want to be.
Yeah. And Major League Baseball is the highest league in the world. There are a lot of leagues that are not in this country that like, I feel like if more Americans watched those games, not even attended those games, because that I know is difficult to attend those games. You can watch Dominican Winter League games. It's not difficult to find those streams online. And you watch one inning of those games, and it's really easy to understand why they play with that level of emotion.
Yep.
Because the fans are very different, right? Like baseball developed in this country as a sport where, you look at those old videos and every guy is wearing suits and they're all wearing hats, like they're straw hats to the games. And it's like, it was a very uptight, if you will, experience going to a baseball game in those days. Like you dressed to the nines, you sat there politely, you golf clapped, there wasn't the kind of emotion that you'll see if you watch a Dominican or Venezuelan Winter League game or anything in the Caribbean Series or any game in the MPB or the KBO. Like, they go nuts.
Dude, the entrances over there.
The fans go absolutely crazy, and, like, you don't expect the players to match that level of passion and enjoyment, and then they get here, and it's like, as fans, we can't do that. Like, that's, I'm one of those people who, as soon as he sees the wave, it's just like, would everyone please stop doing this goddamn wave?
Public appeal from your guys here. If you want to cheer, cheer. If you want to do something performative that's literally going to take your attention away from the game,
correct,
and it's going to take everyone else's attention away from the game, that's the wave. And, like, you could just not.
Yeah, I would much rather you, like they do in almost every other league that's not in America, create some chants. Yeah. Some songs about players that you can yell when they come up. Like, get into it like that. And honestly, one of the things that I love, and as much as I didn't like this team growing up, I've always loved the Yankees roll call.
Yeah.
I thought that is one of the coolest things to be a Yankee player and to get your name chanted by the entire crowd until you recognize them.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And, like,
I feel like it's crazy that there aren't more team fan bases that don't do that exact same thing.
Well, I think it's just as, like, the players are expected to keep their emotion in check.
You're right.
Fans in a lot of ways are too. But, like, you watch one of those games and you're like, yeah, you know how boring it must. Like, obviously you're going to want to play in the major leagues because that's where the money is, that's where the talent is, that's where the competition is, and that's actually what these guys live for, like the competition of it. But it must be way less fun to play. Like, me personally, I have watched more big league baseball games than I can count at this point. Minor league games, whatever. The most fun I've ever had at a baseball game was Mexico-Colombia WBC game.
Oh, when you yeah.
Wasn't a good game.
Right.
But it was so much fun. And it's like, I can't imagine coming from Mexico or Colombia where this is my baseball experience.
Yeah.
And then making the major leagues and being like, this is the crowd? This is kind of dead. Where's the chanting? Where are the drums? Like,
Seattle baseball fans, I'm looking right at you.
Yeah. So, like, it goes both ways a little bit, where, like, it's the fans and overall have a little bit of a part in this too, because we act in a certain way and we expect them to as well.
Yeah.
And, like, we should all change that. Let's have more fun at baseball games.
Well, and that same thing you just said could not be any more applicable to the environment in youth baseball, which is filled with parents. The stands are now filled with people that have a direct biological relationship to the competitors.
And less alcohol, but unfortunately still some alcohol.
Maybe, I don't even know if it's that less.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just like an old fuddy-duddy, and I have some real specific feelings about, people that go to excesses, drinking in public places when children are around. But, like, guys, what are we doing? Like, what? I don't know. Okay, you want to go to the next?
Yeah, next one. Let's go. Let's see what tangent we get out here.
Did you see the guy doing the throwing on the roof?
No. Like off a roof?
On a roof.
Like throwing up.
Standing on the downward slope of a roof and doing, like, drill work.
Down the roof. Off the roof. Like throwing the ball off the roof.
Yeah. Like, the constraint being that you're working down the slope. Yeah.
There's got to be easier ways to get that constraint in.
There is. It's called, you take the portable mound that you have and you flip it around, and you can either work up the slope or down. You don't need to put yourself 20 to 30 feet in the air to accomplish this constraint.
But now it makes me think, like, if you throw a plyo ball off the roof, does it bust when it hits the ground?
Thanks to our patented valve design, I would say no. Paid shill. Yeah, so there's a video going around. This is on Instagram of a dude doing some drill work on a roof. And, like, it was...
When you say a dude, like a older, young, college age?
Yeah. Okay. It was a guy that Kozak actually played with.
Electric.
Yes.
So definitely older. No offense, Kozak.
Yeah. Look, you couldn't have said it any better. There are easier ways to get this constraint, right? Like if you, this is very much like now in my Hall of Fame because of all the years that I've been aggressively online consuming baseball content, my favorite ever incredibly irresponsible and dangerous drill was this dude who is having kids hit a tire, right? Like a big tractor truck tire,
Sure.
right? With an axe.
Yep.
And the blade was pointed not at the tire, but at the kid.
Yep. That tracks.
I haven't gone to his Instagram in probably 3-4 years. I kind of forgot about it, but like it was this giant potpourri of connection balls and bungee cords, and it was like, the videos that you see where guys are like clowning, there's a water bag strapped to you.
Yeah, like clear satire videos.
Yeah, like it was that, except it was really intentional and not satire. So that for sure has been like my Hall of Famer because the blade is literally like one bad rebound away from just like cleaving this child.
Yeah, that's why you haven't looked at his Instagram or Twitter profile in 4 years because he's probably in jail.
It's possible. Now I gotta go find it. But like this one of like doing the drill work off the roof, it's just like, guys, there's a better way.
Hear me out though. Is there a better way to do drills and get some social media interaction?
No. And I mean, and if that's the thing we're searching for, then no, you're right. It just, yeah. That was
a good one.
Yeah, that was tough. Okay, let's go to some heartwarming stuff.
Good. Well, that wasn't too bad for the bad stuff.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean the roof thing is more aggravating if you like read the whole quote, and I'll have to put the video over here or whatever. It's just there's a better way.
Yeah.
And you assassinated it literally in the first thing you said, which there's a better way to get this constraint. So like, yeah, it's just dead. So we did have we actually had a good comment from somebody that I thought, this is like not infuriating nor necessarily heartwarming. This is just good. The basic question was, you guys talk about this value of training with data all the time and it being incentivizing and empowering. Mm-hmm. What about when a kid looks at the data and is like, I suck?
Yeah. Get that all the time.
Yeah. So, Coach Jeremy.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? Kid gets the data and he sees that the cohort of 36 kid we have, he is 36 out of 36.
Yeah.
How do you deal with it?
It definitely depends on the age.
Yeah, sure. Yep. Yeah.
The older they get, the less kid gloves you can have when having this conversation. And so, like, if this was a 15U kid, we have to get better. Like, we have to work. Like, this data is not lying. And it doesn't mean you're a bad baseball player. It means you lack some clear strength and skill numbers that we really need to work on.
Right.
And, like, this is not, no one's trying to be mean to you here. The data is not trying to be mean to you. The data is just going to be honest with what it says. Yeah. And, like, I always will sit there and add context. So if this kid, I'll say this is a kid who's in our 15U cohort who's 41st out of 42 in almost all the metrics. This is not a negative thing. It's where we're at. We are a little bit biologically behind a lot of our peers, so these numbers are skewed towards that end, where like a lot of your other teammates are deeper into puberty than you are.
Yep.
And like that's going to make a difference there. So like don't, compare yourself to that. And the big thing is I always try to, which is difficult when we give out the whole cohort numbers, but you're not competing with them, you're competing with yourself.
Right.
You are better than you were 6 weeks ago. Right. That's what's important. We can't lose sight of that in the larger scope of like, you aren't as good as a bunch of the kids that are also in your age in the same program. And like, when we split A, B, and C teams, this is like a very difficult conversation to have, especially with the kids who make that C team, is like, we love you. We don't want you to not be here. But we have to be honest at this point, and like this is what the data is telling us. This is what our eyes are telling us. Of this group, you're on the bottom end. Now, it's not a problem. We're gonna get reps. We're gonna continue to develop you and make you better. This isn't us saying you're bad or that we're giving up on you, but we have to be realistic about where we are.
Yeah.
And again, directing it back to like, you can only control yourself and how hard you work and your attitude when you come here. As long as that is good and you are getting better every time you come in, your 6-week block, clearly you got better. That's all we can worry about. But like it is there's a couple problems with using the data. It's like that's one of them. And the other one is, the kid that is hitting balls in the top 10 of his age group and is not a good baseball player.
Yes. Is
not able to make adjustments at the plate. So, like, yeah, if he gets a fastball right down the middle, he's going to find a barrel. Yeah. But, like, the second a team realizes that, they're never going to throw him a fastball again.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, if we go based off of curveball exit velocity, you are dead last.
Yeah.
Right? And that's another difficult conversation because, like, we're almost going against the data there. We're like, data's telling us that you are one of the top 10 hitters in this group. But, like, we've seen this and we know, and so it's all of these conversations, they have to come from a place of love and trust. And, like, if you don't know the kid or the family and you're just meeting them and it's clear you're looking at the data for the first time or whatever it is, and you get in there like, wow, you're for 41st out of 42nd, you've got some work to do, as opposed to like, you're a late developer. Yeah. You have gained 15 miles an hour in the last 16 months.
Right.
That is great. We are on a great trajectory. We're getting better. That doesn't mean we are now the best player.
We just had a lot of ground to make up.
We had a lot of ground to make up in the first place, and we still have a lot of ground to make up, but like, you've passed other kids who had a lot of ground to make up and didn't make up that ground. And it's not necessarily realistic to think that you coming to us at 14 well behind the curve are ever going to catch up.
Yeah.
That's a really hard thing to do.
Yes.
But we're going to push you towards that as much as we can and show you the data and explain to you why you're getting closer. Because it may not always feel like you're getting closer on specific days. And like that is where like the data driven stuff becomes pretty difficult, because it may not tell the whole story. And the story it may tell is not an accurate story based on like what we know about the kid and we know with our eyes and all that stuff. And I would say the harder conversation is with the kid who is putting up good numbers metrically.
Yeah.
And is a terrible baseball player.
Yeah.
Because especially as you get older, it's like, sure, you've hit a ball 90.
Yeah.
You can't hit anything unless it's a fastball down the middle. And there's nowhere we can play you on defense. So by the numbers, I understand why you think you have an argument to be on this A team or whatever, but this is the conversation that we need to have, is like, these numbers are skewed a bit, because when we do our data collection every 6 weeks, it is fastballs down the middle, because we're trying to keep the same controlled environment. So if you are a killer during data collection week, and then 2 weeks later we're doing bat to ball work and you can't make contact, this is where the data comes into play, where it's like, hey, that's not wrong that you can hit the ball really hard. That's great. You are still not a good hitter.
Right.
And like those two things yet. Right. And so like we need to work more on this piece, but like we don't have enough data yet on this piece to like show you how far you are behind the rest of your teammates, other than, whiff percentage.
Yeah.
And that's a much harder conversation to have, is like, yeah, you hit the ball really hard. Your whiff percentage is higher than most people. And we need to do a lot more bat to ball work before you can even be on maybe the B team, let alone the A team.
I think the thing that jumped out to me is the perspective of the data being kind of definitive that way. Almost felt like a showcase perspective.
Yeah.
Right. I'm at one point this year, I'm going to get data. And if if that data says that I'm 41st out of 41st, or that I'm, at the bottom of whatever state ranking, yada, yada, that I understand how, if you have one piece of data and it ends up coloring like an inordinately long time period, that it would feel very definitive that way. It feels like prescriptive or something, right? I totally get that. But the point that I think that you really nailed is like, you're just competing against yourself.
Right.
So that, yes, you're going to get this data and it's going to say you are lower quartile or you are at the bottom of the group or whatever right now. But how much better can you get in the next 4 to 6? Because that's all you can control.
Right.
You know, like I tell you I got a PS5.
No.
Thanks to my darling wife, I got a PS5.
There you go.
Yeah, for the first time in like a decade, I can play video games again. So I'm back playing Gran Turismo because like that was my jam back in the day. And
are you letting Danny play with you, or are you just?
Well,
he has his own PS5.
He does.
Okay, so he's in his room playing his PS5, and you're
yes,
okay.
And he, with the best of intentions, bought his old man the Formula One game for 2023. And I'm trying to play it on controller, and I'm not very good, and it's very frustrating.
Sure.
Because I got him, we and his aunt and uncle and a bunch of our family contributed to get him a racing steering wheel and pedal set
for his birthday, which was not long ago.
Yeah. So he's got all the gear. Me, the one that has like a job.
Yeah.
I do not.
Yeah, correct.
So I'm trying to play this game on the couch. It's really aggravating. I'm very bad at it. Gran Turismo, I can still hang. Point being that like a lot of times in Gran Turismo, you're going to start these races and you start like 16th out of 16th or 20th out of 20, and you have 7 laps or 5 laps or however many laps to try to get to the front.
Right. And
I literally, like when we got back from the facility yesterday and had been here on Friday night for practice, Saturday night for hitting and Hit Tracks League, and then Sunday for team practice, got home on Sunday yesterday, and I was doing like a 7-lap race. And it's at Mount Panorama, which is this racetrack down in Australia. It's insanely difficult. It's a super tight, uphill, turny course. I hate it, but I love it.
Yeah.
Because it's really frustrating. Sure. And, and you start or whatever, and I'm like 20th, 18th, 16th, 14th, 15th, 9th, 7th, 4th, and I'm like, last lap, I need to get up to 3rd to make this last 15 minutes of my life mean anything, so that I can get rewarded, right? Because just like the kids that play the games that we all talk about, like I also want to get that fake virtual currency in this stupid game.
But you get XP no matter what, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm getting my XP, right? But I need to make it up to 3rd. And at a certain point, like you just kind of realize, my lap times keep getting lower, but then I finish the race and I finish 3rd, and I'm like, the lap time that I had on my last lap, I need to do that lap time for all 7 laps, and if I don't do that, that's the only way that I'm going to make it up to 1st. So relative to the race conditions, relative to the course, I just turned my fastest lap on that last lap. But that needs to be the new standard if I ever have any shot at making 1st place.
Right.
I'm racing against the other cars, but I'm racing against myself. When you're training with data in baseball, yes, you can look at it in terms of like, how do I compare to the cohort, right? What is my percentile rank?
And you should. That's a thing you should know.
And you should.
And be self-aware about.
Right, because it's going to give you some pretty valuable perspective on where you stand and what you might need to do. But ultimately, I think the game that we're trying to run here is just like you versus you over and over and over and over and over.
Correct.
And I think, you and I are probably thinking about that same kid who's like 42nd out of 42nd. Not a bad baseball player.
No.
The problem is that because he's behind the curve on stuff, it limits his ability to play different positions on the field because he doesn't have the juice.
Yeah.
It's going to limit his ability to be as effective as he could be as a hitter in the box because he doesn't have the juice. He's getting better though.
Yep.
So it's not that data is definitive always. It's only definitive if you don't get a frequent enough sample.
Correct.
Because if you miss that frequent sample, then you miss all those iterative steps to see that you are improving. So like if you do a showcase in February and you go play all year and you do a showcase again next February and you're like the same, or you're marginally better and everybody else got better, well, yeah, I understand how that data would feel definitive. The issue is just the frequency of your sample. It's not the data.
Correct. And we use a lot of data here, and there are times where I use data to make an argument with a parent. Mm-hmm. And there are times when I go against the data to try to make an argument with a parent. Yeah. Where, like, here's what the data is saying. This is actually what's going on, which is that situation of, like, yes, your child has hit a ball 88. He is not a good hitter. Yeah. It has to be right down the middle for him to be able to do it, and he's really going to struggle when we get into competition. So the thing that he needs, right, and the thing that those types of kids need are reps, which is why, B and C teams exist, because it is way more valuable to be a starter on the B than a bench player on the A.
Yeah.
If you're in that boat and need more reps against pitchers who are going to throw different types of stuff, you need to fail.
I'm trying to pull up a YouTube comment.
You need to fail a bunch.
Yeah.
Before you can really make that adaptation. And I know, there's a kid in the 15U group who fits into this bucket who's been doing our Hit Tracks League on Saturday nights and getting a steady dose of curveballs.
So
and making the adjustment. It takes time.
And this is the heartwarming story I wanted to end on.
Yeah.
And I it's so perfect that you rolled right into this. So let's set the scene. We Hit Tracks League on Sundays for our high school age kids, or Saturdays. I'm sorry. We'll be opening it up to more people later. Hit Tracks League, the way that we run it is you have teams, and the team uses the eye pitch to call the pitch against their competition.
Right.
So I think for us, I'm really excited to see how our kids pitch this year that have been participating in that, because I think they're learning some stuff about sequencing.
Yeah.
Like on both sides.
Yep.
But there is one player in particular who he's working his tail off.
I don't know that anybody works harder than that kid. Honestly.
Like, is he never not here?
I honestly think that kid with the Hit Tracks League is here 7 days a week.
Like, working.
He wants it so bad.
And the thing that has been revealed early in the Hit Tracks League is that, fastballs he can bang a little bit.
Yeah.
He can bang a little bit. Swing is, it's a little bit funky. It's a work in progress, but he could bang a little bit. And again, like, sometimes I'm just like, okay, it's the Hunter Pence thing, man. I can't get so wrapped up about the mechanics of it. I have to acknowledge that, like, his mechanics might be weird, but if he gets a pitch he can hit it.
He can hit it, yeah.
But the thing that was also revealed is that he couldn't not offer at the curveball. And the thing that the game will reveal, once public, everybody's going to lean into it.
Yeah.
So what happened is that he started getting a steady diet of nothing but curveballs. And he couldn't lay off of them. And so this is not this weekend, but last weekend, I was here watching, and he was starting. You can just tell, when kids are competing, you see they start to get a little bit down on themselves. So I was like, look, here's what we need to do. And man, this is that moment where I start to think I can't remember who said it a while ago, but it was like the moment that I'm starting to try to, like, coach a kid on, like, hitting approach or mechanics. The first thing that I worry about is, like, do the words that I'm using mean the same thing to me as they do to them?
Yeah.
So what I said to him was like, look, here's what's going on. You can't lay off the curveball, and because of that, they are going to feed you nothing but curveballs, and they're not even going to be strikes.
No.
Like, everything is just down and away because you can't show them that you can't lay off of it. So I was like, okay, here's what we need to do. We are going to decide curveballs above this line I can offer at. Curveballs below that line, I'm just going to take them.
Yeah.
Because you have to make them give you something different. And he was like, okay, cool. And still struggled. And struggled a lot. And you could tell that he started to get really, really down on himself, to the point that I kind of thought he was gonna walk out.
Yeah.
He didn't, though. Finished both Hit Tracks games, even though it was a struggle. he might have gone over on the day.
Yeah.
And that was tough. So everybody's kind of filtering out. And I'm kind of like bird dogging him a little bit, like trying to watch how this is going to go. And, he starts to look a little bit red in the face as he moves into our lobby. So I'm like, all right, let me go out there and talk to him. And I go out there, and he's putting his gear in his bag. It's like super head down so that, nobody can see that he's having a moment.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I know how bad he wants it.
Yeah.
I also know he's got a lot of stuff that needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's a lot that needs to get better metrically in terms of competition. Like it's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, all right, what am I going to say to this kid to like actually make him feel empowered and have him not walk out of the facility feeling like he just had the worst experience ever? And if you compound enough of those days, you're not going to continue to play this game.
Correct.
I was like, man, Ty, like, look, let's get real, like, nihilistic about it. And I didn't say that, but I was like, I know you want to play this game at the highest level possible. I understand that. Maybe that's where you go. Maybe you get a chance to play college baseball. Maybe all you have at the end of this is high school baseball, and that's it. But I was like, ultimately, you're going to be a human being for a lot longer than you're going to be a baseball player. And if that's true, then it's reasonable to think that the thing we want to extract most about this is the things that positively inform our character.
Yeah.
And I was like, here's the thing about you. You walked into this thing knowing it would be really hard because this was the third week that they were going to feed him nothing but curveballs. You knew you were walking into that. And you struggled, and it hurt, and it didn't make you feel good, but you didn't quit. And I was like, buddy, you have to understand that, like, a lot of people, I think the majority of us, when we run into adversity, like, we walk away.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make us feel good.
Right.
And the thing, I was like, the thing that you really need to understand that is impressive to me as the admin and in whatever capacity I'm a coach, even though I don't coach his team, I was like, you knew that that's how it was going to be. And you persisted.
You showed up anyways. Yep.
You showed up anyways. And I was like, man, look, if you want to get into the skill acquisition side of the things, the issue is that you have a perceptual problem. You can't decide which of these curveballs you will perceive as ones that we could offer at and the ones that we should leave. It's an on-off switch.
I'm still convinced that he has a massive depth perception program, and,
right.
and that's like where all this is.
Yep.
But yes,
yep. And I think that I agree. But I was like, so how are we going to do that? How are you going to stem that problem? If it isn't like a literal depth perception issue, you just need to get the reps. So what that means is you need to continue to do the same thing that you're doing right now. Yeah. You don't need to learn a new skill. You need to continue to show the strength of character and composition that you are literally showing in this moment.
Yeah.
And I understand that it hurts, and I understand that it doesn't make you feel good, and I understand that it's going to make you feel like you're a failure. But what's going to happen is that you are going to get better at this thing the more that you do it. You just have to like weaponize the strength of character that you have right now, which is having tolerance for both things. I know that I'm going in to try to do something that's really, really difficult, and I know that it's going to frustrate me. So Saturday, Hit Tracks League, just this last weekend, I'm like bird dogging the cage a little bit, and I see him start to spit on some curveballs down. I was like, God damn it, man, that's a fucking win.
Yeah.
That's the win.
Yeah.
And what happened was they had to start feeding him more fastballs because he's just not going to chase all of them. He's not perfect at it. This isn't like a gigantic, this isn't the A-Rod. I got cut from my high school team and then I was a varsity starter. It's not that.
Well, that wasn't even that. So
right. That wasn't even that. Alex, you know what you did. But it's iterative process. It's iterative progress to his process.
Yeah.
And I think, we talk a lot about the metrics and stuff, but there's also this other side of this whole enterprise, which is how do we develop that strength of character with these kids to continue to persist, to try to just get as close as they possibly can to the truth of how good they could possibly be.
Right.
And the only way that they're going to get there is a kid like that who can like be in the weeds and struggle and feel it at a deep emotional level because he wants it that much.
Yeah.
But then keep showing up.
Correct. As Jay-Z said last night at the Grammys.
Yes, he did.
Keep showing up.
He literally keeps showing up.
Yeah.
Man, I was just like, I was so, it's a weird thing to be like, to be proud of a kid in a moment of failure. And I think they're really like not sure.
That's when I'm most proud of my kids.
100,000%. That's the best way.
Yeah.
It's the best. Cause like they're not even, they're like, well, you should be like mad at me or you should criminalize my failure. And we're over there. That's like, man, I love you. And I'm so proud.
Yeah.
And like being able to have those moments, I think is the one thing about this job that just like my cup is perpetually, there's a hole in it.
Yeah.
You can never get full on those moments.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, it's everything.
Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is that like, I can't tell you how far that kid's going to go in the game.
Yeah.
But what I can tell you is that as a very young man, he is showing a strength of character that I think is going to play.
I know it is. I know
Right?
it's going to play.
Like,
Yeah.
it's just the best.
His teammates feed off of that. Mm-hmm. And like that has given him a decent leadership role.
Right.
Even though he's not the best player on the team. He's not that kind of kid. He is that kind of kid.
Right.
And it's been really cool to watch him grow in the last 2 years and like change into this role where like that kid wants it so bad. And like when he first showed up, I never thought he would be that kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this is also a part of the training with Data.
Yep.
Is he realized
Yep.
I'm not that bad. Like I can do things that some of these other 14-year-olds can't.
Yeah.
Like I am not good at a lot of this stuff, but like I can do things that they can't. And like there's something there that like there's a metric that is showing me that, you know, we talk about it in scouting, like your carrying tool. Like
Right.
he hits the ball very hard when he hits it.
Right.
That's a carrying tool. He's got some raw pop in that body. He's got some strength. And like he just like that fueled him, and it has continued to fuel him knowing that like I can do at least one thing well.
Yeah.
And now I got to work on the rest of them.
Right.
But
And strength of character is also a carrying tool.
100%.
Like, because again, didn't play college baseball, but I've talked to a lot of college coaches. I've talked to a lot of high school coaches, and I know that like a lot of them have kids on that team, on teams that they're not a PG top 25 in the state.
No.
You know, they're not a showcase baby. They don't win like the tournament, whatever MVP, but they end up on college rosters and on high school rosters because of this type of stuff.
Yeah.
Because you want a dude like that with the team.
Yeah. And I scouted a kid who went to I'm trying to not name any schools or anything, but he went to a very nerdy school in the Northeast that is not known for baseball.
Got it.
And I had to follow him and his team for 6 games before I got enough video on him swinging to send it back.
Yeah.
Because there was no strikes thrown.
Yeah.
And I have been around enough rookie ball players that like there's constantly kids getting drafted out of high school who have never failed in their careers.
Yeah.
Best player on their high school team.
Yep.
And like now they get there and they don't have that strength of character to like persevere through, I'm not the best anymore. And like take those little wins out where you get them and like learn how to use the data to give you a little bit of confidence in certain ways. And like that is the separating tool. Cause like, you know, people have said it. I'm not saying anything revolutionary, but like anybody who plays professional baseball has skill to be able to play Major League Baseball.
Yes.
That is not the separator once you hit that point. Now, there are definitely like the Stantons of the world who have a little bit more skill than or a little bit more strength than some of the other guys that like or a guy like Bryce Harper, where it's like it's gonna be really hard for this guy not to make it to the majors because he's just got like that. He is such an outlier skill that like he's gonna get there. Most other guys at any level of professional baseball have enough skill to make it. They don't have the strength of character. They don't have the approach, the correct mentality, and like the second it goes from I am the stud on the big man on campus in high school and college to like this is now my day job.
Yeah, day in day
that
out.
I spend 8 hours a day on, and I'm getting a lot of feedback that I'm not very good at this, or I'm not as good as these guys are at it. Yeah. And if you don't have that strength of character in your back pocket to pull from, pro ball's really, really hard.
And the thing
it eats them up and it spits them out.
And the thing I wonder is what opportunities were missed to condition that earlier.
Yeah.
Right? Because all we're talking about, this is the very amorphous approach to competition, mindset, mental training, whatever. But so yesterday, on Saturday, same thing, Hit Tracks League, right? Danny, my son, for any new listeners, has done pretty well in the Hit Tracks League previously. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Yesterday, he was not getting the outcomes that he wanted.
He was not.
I'm sorry, on Saturday in Hit Tracks League, he wasn't getting the outcomes that he wanted.
He wasn't yesterday.
But yesterday was the same deal.
Yeah.
It was literally the same deal. And we ended up having the same conversation on 2 back-to-back days. So if it sounds as though I like give him this wisdom from on high and just like immediately seeps into his DNA, that ain't it.
He's a kid just like the rest of them.
Yeah. So anyway, he comes over during Hit Tracks League on Saturday and he goes, "Dad, motivate me." And I was like, "Por qué? What?" It's like, "What are you talking about?" Because I was over there lifting. And he's like, "I can't buy a base hit today." He goes, "I just hit a ball 89 on the screws in the the Hit Tracks shortstop." And like the Hit Tracks defenders
they're elite. They're the best defenders.
Yeah. I guess the shortstop made like a diving play to line it out. And I was like, "Buddy, was that a win?"
Yeah.
Was that a win? 89 on the screws. What are we talking about?
Right.
That's a win.
Yeah.
Guy happened to be standing there. What could you do differently? He was like,
and as he saw last Sunday in competition, if you do that, you can hit it directly into someone's glove and their glove falls off. And then you're on first.
Right. Like I was just like, so I was like, "Look, you don't need me to motivate you. You're already winning.
Right.
Do you want to continue to win? Yes. Okay, then just do what you're doing.
Right.
We're inventing an issue."
Correct.
And then yesterday was amusing because again, it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday back to back. We woke up early morning on Sunday to go down for brunch, to go see my brother-in-law. Anyways, so he was tired, which is reasonable. And he came over to me at one point when I was finishing my lift yesterday, and he was like, I was just like, I'm done. And I was like, "Okay, well then you should just be done with the practice you want to be done." "Well, I can't be done." "Well, why?" "Well, because I don't want to be done."
Because I'm a psycho. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So apparently the last ball that he hit yesterday, he hit one 87.
Confirmed.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. And apparently it was also an out.
It was an out.
Right.
A line out to the center fielder.
Right. So he was like, so when he came over to me earlier, he was like, "I can't hit a ball over like 80 or whatever. I'm so tired. I was like, "Okay, well just be done if you're tired." "Well, I can't be done." "Okay, fine." So then, his PR currently is 90 and then ends the day hitting a ball 87. So we're in the car driving home. And I was like, "Man, you got to understand my perspective on this is that if the last ball that you hit, where presumably you were in maximal amount of tiredness,
sure,
was 3 miles off of your PR, then all those other balls that you hit that weren't in and around your PR, was it really a tiredness issue?"
Yeah, it was just mental fatigue and not physical. Yeah.
And I was like, "Buddy, this is the thing. You have to understand what you've signed up for. This game is so infuriatingly difficult, and you can do everything right and still not get the outcome that you want. So the question is, how do you respond?
Correct.
Are you going to respond to that and like snowball and talk yourself into performing, or do you want to keep winning the way that you've been winning? And if you do that long enough and consistently enough, that's the only way that you can open up like the best opportunities.
Yeah.
It's not going like, well, you know, I hit that one 87, 290 directly at the center fielder. Well, I could have been a little bit more polar. I could have been a little bit more oppa. Like,
or I got to do what my teammate Lincoln did and hit a ball 56 that bloops into the outfield.
Sure, right. Like, all of those possibilities are there, but you have to avoid that like maddening search for like the most perfect one. Because I'm pretty sure, again, I didn't play this game at a high enough level, but that's a really easy pathway to get domed up about everything.
Yes. I like the best players that I've ever seen. And this is, again, I'm not saying anything revolutionary. They have the shortest memories. Right. They can take the stupidest swing or make the dumbest swing decision, and it's immediately gone, and they're not thinking about it the next pitch.
Right.
And that is the hardest thing to do in baseball. In sports, is to have that short memory and not think about the fact that I just took a terrible swing and I just put myself in an 0-1 hole, and then you're now thinking about that, now you're in an 0-2 hole, and like now the at-bat's over.
And for those kids that lack that ability, my question is always going to be, in their formative years, what opportunities were missed to reinforce that, like, that's the perspective you need.
Yeah.
Right? Because those kids had coaches like you and I don't think it's a reach to say that they probably were criminalized.
Yeah, and I think like the biggest thing for me is the difficulty of the training environment. Mm-hmm. Driving some of these adaptations before they normally would happen.
Right.
So, like, letting them know that they're not very good before they get out there and find out they're not very good is, like, really important, because then they have that context and they don't feel terrible about themselves when they're actually on a field, because they failed and they know why and they know how. Right. And they know how to make the adaptation and adjustment to stop that from happening again. But it doesn't – you can't get that if you don't – so, like, you know, a good example, I realized yesterday that if I put the eye pitch, and for my kids who are listening to this, I guess I'm giving away the playbook here, but if I put the eye pitch, if I hit zone 4 of the 9 pocket, it is like 2 balls off the plate outside, and HitTrack still calls it a strike.
Yeah.
So my kids who have a better eye for the zone, like, I don't know, let's call him Manny Dorgan. I'm just pounding that outside zone, and they're staring. They're staring at it. They're spitting on him, which is the correct call because you're not doing anything with that. Right. And you could just see the level of frustratedness, and I'm just going to keep doing that thing.
Yes.
And, like, not switch it from that zone. Maybe I'll go from fastball to curveball, but everything is going to be 2 balls outside of the plate.
Yeah.
And, like, hey, guess what? You're going to have a high school umpire do this to you.
Yes. 100%.
And if I don't do this to you right now and show you that, like, you're going to fail and here's why, and, like, there's a way to not fail in this situation, you're not going to have that muscle memory to come back on when this happens to you in a game because the umpire is bad, like most real human umpires are, and calls a ball 3 balls off the plate, a strike, and now you're down 0-1. And, like, it's hard to reset yourself if you don't have a bunch of experience in that situation resetting yourself. Yeah. And, like, he's not very good at it. Right? Like, no, we're not right now. Like, I pounded the outside of the zone every time he came up, and he was 0 for 5 yesterday. Yeah. Which is probably the first time he's ever gone 0 for 5 in, like, a HitTrack scenario. And I was just like, buddy, I'm not going to change what I'm doing. The amount of kids that came up to me in between innings and offered me bribes, which I can't be bought for that low of a price. Like, $10-$20 is not, like, we need, although your son offered me $1,500, which I told him there's no way you have that money, and don't write checks you can't cash. But, like, I'm not going to throw your fastball right down the middle, because you need to figure out how to hit a fastball that's up and in, or one that's low and away, or, like, I am much better at pitch sequencing than you guys are. I'm going to dice you guys up. Nobody got more than 2 hits. One kid on each team got more than 2 hits. That was it. And it was like in 6, 7, 8 at bats. It's like, I'm going to intentionally dice you guys the hell up and make this very difficult. And, like, this is good preparation for high school because you think the pitcher's just going to give you a cookie down the middle?
Game would be a heck of a lot easier.
It would be.
Yeah.
And like you got to learn how to fail in this environment when I can tell you, don't worry about it. This is what we're going to learn from this. This is how you adapt, and watch them adapt in real time to it. If you don't have that piece, the only failure they have is public in a game. And it's really hard to come back. No matter who you are, you got to be a little psycho or a lot psycho to be able to come back from public failure over and over and over again easily.
Yeah.
Without like having any kind of negative side effects of like negative self-talk or whatever you want to throw
spiral.
in. And that spiral.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult to do if the only time you ever fail is like publicly in a game and you just lose confidence immediately.
Yeah. It's so funny that you bring that up because we were running lives. I don't know if I told you this story a couple weeks ago, and there was a player who didn't like the zone and allowed that to really like take him out of his ability to compete.
What do you mean you don't know if you told me about it? It was my zone that he didn't like.
No, I know, but I didn't tell you about the back half of this.
No.
So he and I ended up having a conversation, and
because I have a great relationship with the kid, and he wouldn't talk to me the rest of the night.
Yeah, and he was all, he was brittle.
Yeah,
he was very brittle about it. And what I said to him was like, man, you have to understand that like we have to. Like it's our jobs, and again, this is a 15, 16U player, so it's an older player. So I'm not necessarily saying that you should take this tactic with like a 10-year-old, but for this player who is a little bit older, I was just like, buddy, this is going to happen to you. You are going to be playing this game, and if you show up an umpire, the zone is going to get worse and worse and worse, and it might just be for you. It might be for the whole team.
Well, especially if the position you play is catcher, you're now going to struggle on both sides.
Yeah. So I was like, I understand that in this moment because you're a kid, and I think sometimes kids, some of this, the root issue is like they can't really differentiate competition in here versus competition in the game or like on a field with a belt, cap, etc.
Sure.
And it's great. Like I love that. Like they want to win everywhere.
Yeah.
But they don't yet understand that like you really want to struggle and fail in here if that exposes things that you need to succeed when we're actually on a field.
Correct.
And so I was like, man, I understand that you are having this reaction because you struggled and it didn't go the way that you wanted. What you need to understand is it is literally our jobs to expose this so that you learn how to always put yourself in the best possible position to compete.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, look, man, you're way too good of a hitter to not swing the bat.
Yeah.
But when you talk yourself into that, when you kind of, I think it was Reynolds who said this most recently, being like the throw your hands up guy.
Yeah, the palms up. Yeah.
Like you can't be a palms up guy. Can't. Not in this game. Like not in this game. Not if you want to have any hope of playing it for any length of time.
Correct. And one of the dads on my team who I feel like listens to this. Shout out Paul. His son and a lot of these players deal with this problem of feeling like things are unjust.
Yes.
Like this is not fair.
Yes.
It's like yes, correct.
That's the game that
have you
chosen.
Played baseball?
This is
right. Like you are going to hit the piss out of a ball and it's going to get caught. Is that fair? No, not really. But like this is, it is good to train in an environment that is not always fair, because you want to train in as close of an environment as possible to the game environment.
Yeah.
And if the training environment is super fair, I'm only setting you up to not be able to deal with unfairness when you get into a real game.
Right.
I have to, and like, again, I will double down on your caveat that like the younger you get, the less important this is.
Yeah.
But like the older they get, especially once they're in high school, they have to learn these lessons in here when we have control over the environment and the situation, and we can like walk them through it and help them fail. Because like, if the only failure they get is public in front of their friends and family on a field in a game, they're not going to be long for this game.
Or it's failure in front of a coach.
Or in front of a coach. Yeah, same thing.
In front of a high school coach
Right.
who might be more quickly inclined to judge you and make like a very definitive estimation of just like who you are as a person.
And so we've gone through some turnover coaching wise, staff wise over the last couple years, and I have had my team for quite some time. I know these kids extremely well. I'm very comfortable with these kids. I know the lessons they've learned. I know the kind of competitors they are. But it is good to get new perspectives like a Reynolds or a Kozak coming in, working with these kids for the first time or for the first time in a while, and being like, he's a real palms up kid.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, I never really realized that. And he's not, because I know what's going on in his brain because I know him well enough. But like, yeah, I can see how he acts like that.
Yeah.
And like, man, we got to fix that before he shows up for his high school.
Yep.
And like the first thing that his high school coach sees in tryouts is like, I call a strike on you if we're doing live ABs during tryouts. I call a strike on you that's outside, and you turn around and palms up. Like if I'm a high school coach, I'm just writing that down immediately. Like that kid that's a notch down, and it's not always. I don't always notice it with my kids because I know who they are.
Yeah.
And like having that like trying to get that outside perspective and being like, okay, if I was a high school coach and I was watching my kids, would I light all of them up? And I'm just not doing that because I'm me and I know them.
Yeah.
In some situations, yes. Like probably yes.
Yeah.
And our job is to prepare them to get coached by somebody else.
Yep.
Because our job is to get these kids ready to go play. I mean, yes, high school baseball, but like our goal, college baseball, pro ball for some of these guys, we know we're not coaching them at that level.
Yep.
So like we have to prepare them to play for somebody else, and they can't just be prepared to play for us.
Right.
Which like goes back to the old pitching coach at Mississippi State. I don't think he's there anymore. Like saying over and over that the best thing he can do for his kids is making them their own best pitching coach.
Yep.
That like if they rely on him to make any changes, they're in a really bad spot because like, if you're a 25th round draft pick, you think you're going to get a lot of attention for the pitching coaches in pro ball? No, they're going to be paying attention to the guys that were taken to the first 10 rounds.
Yeah.
And like you're going to have to do some of this on your own if you really want to develop because they have a limited amount of time to invest, and as a later round draft pick, you might not get any of their time. You definitely won't get the bulk of it. Yeah. So you got to know how to do this stuff on your own. Yeah. And it's the same thing that I think with sending them off to college and high school.
Yes.
Like they are going to have to be like, I'm aware that a non-zero amount of my kids, maybe all of them, are going to play for a coach who knows absolutely nothing about baseball. Or like next to nothing about baseball, like a chemistry teacher that's like, yeah, I'll take the extra stipend or whatever to coach. And like they have to know how to deal with that and how to interact with a coach like that and not just me, which they've gotten very comfortable interacting with me.
Right.
And I'm not every coach they're going to ever have.
Yeah.
I might be an outlier. Hopefully I'm not an outlier. I might be, depending on where they go or whatever.
No, you're right.
And like that is a part of what we're trying to develop too, is like that resiliency in them to be able to respond to different types of coaching, different types of people, because I no matter what, I'm not going to be the only coach they ever have.
Yeah. Did I tell you about Pudge Gorman is no reaction practice?
Mm-mm.
So Pudge is one of my favorite people that I've ever met in baseball. High school coach in Virginia, has created more pro ball guys and more D1 college pricks than I could, more than I can count. And when I was back doing the Virginia Baseball Coaches Association thing, we were just spitballing at one point. He was talking about early on in his season with his teams, they'll do no reaction practice. So this is a day where they're not going to do a lot of skill work, or they've already done their skill work, and they're literally like practice, getting a hit, and running up the line and not reacting. They will practice running on and off the field after swing and miss, strike three, got to get back out in the field. Practice after the error is made. And he's always, and I think what he said was like, that'll happen, and you get your 10 or 15 seconds, you go in the dugout, you blow off whatever steam you need to do, so long as you don't hurt anybody else, you don't hurt yourself. But then after that, man, you gotta get back. You gotta get back to competition. And I think when I was a younger coach, I started to think about stuff, and I was just like, that seems like super eye-washy, and but I think what we're really talking about is like a conditioned response.
Correct. You can't like, just expect them to respond that way without harping on it and practicing it and putting that in their ear a bunch.
It's like, I mean, I saw this guy on Reddit the other day who is like, I started coaching my daughter in basketball, and whenever she gets fouled, she reacts like super aggressively. Like she's like shoving and like almost
punching. The Draymond Green of girls basketball.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure this is like a really young kid, so like it's
even better.
Yeah, It's hilarious. The point being that like that's just kind of an innate response for some people. And in this game, when you experience frustration, when you experience failure, when you experience mistakes, you're going to have the innate response. But then you're going to have the response that you can learn, the conditioned response. Yeah. And because we spend our lives worrying about coaching kids, the variety of ingrained innate response is like really extreme.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it doesn't look a lot like the response that we want them to have.
Right.
So if you acknowledge both of those things are true, then you have to give them the opportunity to do the thing that's innate and then provide them context.
Yeah. It's like having a short memory practice, right?
Yep.
Like you have to forget the thing that just happened.
Yep. And I can't think of a group of kids who really need that tool the most than the kids who not only want it really bad, but are also really good.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it's like, you're only good right now.
Right. And going back to that story about that kid at a nerdy school in the Northeast.
Yeah.
I was pretty confident in my scouting report of this athlete, having never saw him swing, because of his body language.
Right.
And how bad it was going back to the dugout, because his team won all 5 games.
Right.
He played shortstop. He played a good shortstop. He got on base almost every at-bat because he was just getting walked, like intentional, unintentional, whatever.
Yeah.
But like sitting at the end of the dugout, slamming his helmet, being pissed that he's not getting pitches to see.
Yeah.
Those types of things. Like, yeah, I have seen everything I need to see from this kid to know that like this is not a kid that deals well with anything that doesn't exactly go his way. And like he's taking himself out of the game. And not this game, because this is Division III Northeast baseball,
right.
And he's better than everybody else.
Right.
But like you go up a level, now he's completely out of that game.
Right.
He's outclassed by all these other guys when his skill set is right there with all these guys.
Yeah.
But like he can't have a short enough memory where like he's slamming a bat in the dugout.
Yeah.
And like, I get that it feels eye-washy to do like the no walking on the field thing. Mm-hmm. But I swear, man, when you're a scout at a college game or a high school game and you see the best kid on the team strike out, go put his helmet down, grab his glove and his hat, and sprint to his position on the field, hell yeah, man.
Yeah.
Like, I don't honestly know what's going on in your head. I don't know if you're putting it past you if you have a short memory, but I know you're trying to. Like, I know you're flipping, you're trying as hard as you can to flip that page, and that's all I can ask for, because it's not easy. I just need to see you trying to do it.
Yeah.
And like that's such a big part of this, is like you can see it from the body language. I would way rather scout a kid. Like, it's a much better scouting experience to see a kid go 0 for 4 with 4 Ks than a kid hit 4 bombs.
Yeah.
Because great, I know when you get fastballs or like hanging pitches or whatever, like you should be able to do that.
Yeah, you're not scouting him if that wasn't in the tank anyways.
Correct. I want to see what it looks like when you fail.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I want to see what it looks like when you're warming up for games. Yeah. Like, are you like super into it? Do you care? Like, those types of things matter a ton, and that's just like strength of character. And that's like what's going on in your head, not the skill side. And that's the part of data, right? Is it'll tell you where you're at skill side wise for the most part. We don't have data that can yet tell you where your brain is at. And that's, to wrap a bow on this and tie it back into the beginning of it, that's where these conversations get really hard.
Yeah.
Because I have to sit across the table from these people and say, he can hit balls really hard. That's not the problem. The problem is between his ears.
Yeah.
And that's a much harder problem to fix. I don't have data for you on that problem. I don't have a data-driven way to solve that problem. All we got to do is keep trying. Yep. And like try to each time we fail, try to turn that page a little quicker and spin that flywheel a little quicker. And like, we're going to get there, but this is going to take a lot of time. And like, I wish I had And this is one of the problems with training with that much data is like, I got data on almost everything.
Yeah.
There's no data that I can have for that.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's the one thing that like is the separator at every level of baseball. And it's the one thing we can't train for.
Yeah.
And that makes it like really difficult to, well, I don't want to say we can't train for.
We can
but
provide
we can't,
context.
Right. We can't quantify it and measure it.
Yeah.
And like that makes it much more difficult to train for because we don't know if you're getting better at this thing. We can try, but I don't know if you're actually getting better outside of like anecdotal evidence of like, hey man, this tournament, you were hanging your head way less.
Yeah.
And I will never forget your kid in the Portland Championship last year turning the diving double play in the first inning to get the first two, like, you know, leadoff walk, I think it was, and then he turns a diving double play at shortstop. Incredible play. The next inning, there's like a line drive hit to shortstop, like a rocket. He dives for it. It goes off his glove into left field, and he is like beside himself because he couldn't make that play.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, this is a very difficult mental game where like I want you to have a short memory, but also like I want you to remember that you did that last inning.
Yeah.
And so like have a short memory on certain things, but not on the good parts.
Yeah.
And that's so difficult for like adults to grasp, let alone kids.
It's such a fine line of like, you know, because I think ultimately if you distill it down to one thing, you just need to always be, you need to put yourself in a position to compete.
Yeah.
And you can't take yourself out of a position to compete.
Correct.
So like the Jay-Z of this, of just like, just keep showing up, just keep showing up, just keep showing up. The Pusha T, how do you respond? What would Meek do? It all revolves around the same thing, which is we're talking about an active, intentional choice about our response to difficulty and failure and struggle.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like, you know, the carrying tool is skill. But, like, if you don't have the mental and emotional capacity to immediately, like, deal with struggle and failure and then put yourself back in a competitive mind state, that's, like, the opposite of carrying tool. That's just like it's like you're dragging around a flipping boat anchor, you know?
I showed my kids, which if parents are listening, I'm slightly sorry about this because it is rated mature on HBO, but, you know, they're all old enough to handle it. But I showed them a clip from Hard Knocks from this year.
Yeah.
From the in-season one with the Dolphins. From the episode where they got their butts handed to them by the Ravens.
Yeah.
And the entire time, the talk is like, hell yeah, man, adversity. Like, let's face it. This is great. We love adversity. This is awesome. Let's go tackle it. Let's go take it down. You know, Tyreek Hill drops a clear touchdown. Like, probably the easiest catch he's had all year, and he drops it.
Yeah.
Next, and like, he's like laughing about it almost as he comes back to the bench, and they're just like, it happens, whatever. Next drive, makes an insanely difficult catch on fourth down to extend the drive.
Yeah.
And like, they're all telling each other, hey, adversity is really good. We got to keep our heads up. It's fine. Like, keep battling, keep fighting. It's like, guys, these are the same conversations you guys have with each other.
Yes.
You have to know that no matter how long you play this game and what level you get to, you are still going to have the exact same goddamn conversations. This never gets easier.
It doesn't go away.
It doesn't go away. It never really, I mean, I shouldn't say it never gets easier. It does get easier the higher you go because you're more used to failure. But, like, you are always, you know, I'll go back to clearly my favorite player, Joey Votto, who had the quote about, like, being in a slump is like,
yeah.
It was something like, is like trying to get out of a labyrinth only to get out and realize you're in another labyrinth. Yeah. It's like, yeah, that is like accurate. This is a really difficult game. Every professional sport is really difficult. Listen to how these professional athletes at the highest level on a playoff team are talking. Did they for 1 second not believe that they were going to win that game? Down 20 plus points on the road to the number one seed. Listen to the way they're talking. Did they ever feel like, if you didn't know the score and you were just listening to them, what would you think they were down by 3, 7?
Right.
Like, not 28 or whatever it was. And, like, you know, I've talked about this before on the pod that, like, people need to watch more non-Major League Baseball.
Yes.
To understand what it, like, really looks like, the path to get there, like minor league, college, stuff like that. And people need, like, those types of things, like the mic'd up things. They need to do it way more often so people can understand, like, that these professional athletes are just as human as kids are, and they're having these same conversations, and, like, they're having these doubts about themselves, and they're dealing with it in a way that, like, is not terribly difficult to pull out and apply to kids.
Yeah. Yeah, it's right there.
It's right there. And like we still, especially in this game, like failure is such a negative thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, like it, if you talk to any athlete at the professional level, failure isn't negative. Unless you make it negative, failure shouldn't be a negative thing ever. It's a adversity. Adversity is fun. Like, I would rather have the deck stacked against me and be an underdog.
Yeah.
And prove them wrong.
Yeah.
Than I would being, the top dog and just like everything's really easy.
Yeah. 8U Hardo Instagram dads. That's for you. Ugh, I love you guys. I really do. I really do. It keeps me honest. We got anything else? I feel complete.
I feel complete.
I don't know what we'll be talking about next time. This is a nice little potpourri episode. Yeah. We haven't done one of these for
ended
a while.
Ended on a much good. I was worried. I never know what you got on the phone when you pull it out. I'm like, oh no, but like it was 1.5.
Yeah.
Posts that make me just like, but the rest of it was heartwarming. Again.
Well, I will get that YouTube comment pulled up because it's not infuriating. It's a good one that we should deal with about.
It's not my favorite YouTube comment though. It's the only one I've actually ever seen. It's from one of our 12U athletes who asked me if I'd seen the comment on the YouTube video, and I was like, no, I haven't. He was like, oh, I commented. You should go look at it. And so I went to YouTube. Someone showed me how to look at the comments on my phone because I'd never done it on the app before. Yeah. And it was from his dad's YouTube account, so he wanted us to make sure we knew it was him. So it was, hey, it's Nathan, like the catcher with an afro. It was like, Nathan, you're not even like not here anymore. Like we know who you are. Like I don't. But yeah, that was like the only comment I've seen. Very heartwarming.
I actually saw that comment and hit it with the old the love button from the corporate account. Yeah. So hopefully, Nathan, we love you, buddy. I don't know. We'll talk about next week. Thank you guys for being here. The likes, subscribes, the notifications, all the things that support the algorithm. We appreciate. Skills and Skill Book, axbat.com, code DL20, 20% off. Youth Underload Smash Bats, free training programs, youth baseball development certifications. The big spring sale is going to be coming up. So by the time that this gets published, I think it should be live. So you'll be able to get some stuff for cheap. Trylinebaseball.com, which catch you guys next time.